people who have an employment-resistant personality. She is 16 years old, and throughout her life I've struggled with how to parent her effectively. Now that she's quickly approaching age 18, I worry that all my efforts will be for naught, and she will inevitably end up like her father's side of the family, dependent on others or the state. She seems to share a lot of their genetic traits. Can you lend me some insight/advice on how to combat or curb these personality traits before it is too late? That's from Lana.
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 How you doing?
I'm okay.
Ooh, tricky question. I hope you have not come here for hope.
Right.
All right. Do you want to give me some of the concerns that you have regarding her behavior?
Well, I do have noticed over the years that she does lack some empathy quite a bit. I wouldn't say that she's has no empathy, but I can definitely tell that identifying with other people in that way is lacking. So, okay, here's an example. She will borrow money from her sister. I have another daughter. She'll borrow money from her sister with absolutely no intention of actually paying her back.
Did she say she will?
Yes.
All right. So she's a thief. No, I mean, I hate the people who borrow and say they're going to pay back and then never get in touch with you. It's like, I'd rather just hit me on the head and take my wallet. Like, just don't give me this crap. So that's my own personal picadillo. I could be wrong, but I've had that in the past when I was broke as hell and I'd lend people money and they just vanish. And it's just like, God, so rank. All right, go on.
I don't know. There's been a couple times when we've had an argument and I have told her, I've tried to explain myself in a way that put yourself in my shoes, put in my position. How would that feel if you talked to me that way or you responded in that way? And it seems to go over it. Now, I do see sometimes that she does get it. Sometimes I do see, like with her sister was upset and they got into a fight and she was overwhelmed with some schoolwork. And when I brought it back to my daughter, I explained to her, I said, she's really overwhelmed. And, I explained her perspective and she kind of got it. So it's not like she's lacking completely. It's just not one of her strong suits.
You'd like it to occur without explanation, right?
Yes.
You'd like it to be a language that she speaks natively, not one that she keeps having to look up the dictionary, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then also, comparing to my other daughter, who's just a little bit younger, has high empathy. And so I think sometimes when I'm comparing the two, I see a big disparity between the two. One's very high empathy, one's very low empathy. So that's one of the things that made me think, listening to that show, like, that fits her completely.
And how did they get along, these two?
Well, right now, okay. When they were younger, it was better, but they're teenagers. Both of them are teenagers, so it's hard to say, is this just a teenage phase?
And of course, they're eager to, no, please, you borrow this piece of clothing. It looks better on you.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Teenage girls and clothing is like a whole other, you can bring peace in the Middle East before you can bring peace to warring closets. All right, go on.
Well, those were the two examples that I had.
All right, so empathy is an issue. What else?
Well, she has had a job. She, if we're talking about the employment issue, I was encouraging her, because this is what happens sometimes is, I think of what I was doing at her age, what my personality is, how to encourage her in a way that someone would encourage me. It's very difficult when you have a child who has a very different personality than yourself to know how to connect with them or how to encourage them. And when she turned 14, I was encouraging her to get a job, because she is also the type of kid that wants more all the time. So I've thought to myself, if you know the book, if you give a mouse a cookie, he'll want a glass of milk. That story.
I don't.
Maybe you don't. Okay. Well,
But I think I've dated the personality type in my youth.
Right. If you give a mouse a cookie, he'll want a glass of milk. Then he wants a nap. Then he wants a bath. Then he just wants more and more and more. And this is very similar to her personality. Literally have bought her shoes, like new school shoes. And the next day she says she doesn't like them. She wants a different pair. Like she's the kid that always wants more. And if you give her an inch, she'll take a mile. No joke. It's so I was like, well, let's get you a job then. So you can buy these things that you want. And at age 14, we couldn't find a job that would hire her at 14, even though I was 14 when I had a job, like at McDonald's. So age 15, got her a job at McDonald's, went through all the motions, she got the job. I would drop her off and pick her up. We were saving for a car. So she saved.
Where you would drop her off and pick her up? Why?
From work. Drop her off at work.
No, but why?
Pick her up from work.
No buses?
What? Not where we live, no.
No buses. And she can't bike there?
No, it was like a few miles away. No,
Hang on. You say this all like self-evident. So I grew up without a car and I biked everywhere. So, I'm not saying you're wrong. Just, step me through it. So like a couple of miles, you could bike easy, right?
But she wouldn't do that.
Well, why not?
She'd rather stay home than bike a couple miles.
Huh. We may be getting somewhere close to the problem here. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I used to bike, I biked 20 miles to work. Mm-hmm. And I had an employee who used to bike about 14 miles to work. I mean, she could do it if that was the only way to do it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
If she wanted to. I feel like
because it's a lot of work. You go and drive her there, but you got like 4-hour shift. You go drive her there, come back, go and pick her up and so on, right? I mean,
yes. That's
not a particularly, just working is only part of it, right? The commute is the other part.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and then, there's a whole nother issue with her getting a paycheck. And I had to be like a jail warden on her bank account in the sense that she'd get her paycheck. I would put so much in her bank account, and then I'd dole out her allowance of her money. Otherwise,
you would control her money?
Yes.
Why?
Because
it's her money.
Because the objective was to save for a car.
No. I don't understand. It's her money.
That's what she would say too.
Okay, so far I'm with her. She's going to work. Okay, you're driving. Maybe you could take a little bit of cut for gas money or whatever, but it's her money.
Right.
Why does she have to do what you want with her money?
Oh, I guess because I know better. Because I'm her mom, right?
Oh, so you want her to grow up, but you also want to tell her what to do.
Oh.
You want her to be responsible, but you also want her to be obedient. You got to pick one from column A or one from column B.
Right.
Right. So it's her money. If she wants to save for a car, then she can save for a car. And if she wants to blow it all on, hand sanitizers, like the big craze for some, she's probably too old for that. But if she wants to blow it all, then she doesn't get the car. Isn't that life? I mean, isn't the whole point? She's almost an adult, right?
Right. But my thought was save up for the car, get the car, and then you can spend your money, whatever. How I have told her that. I said, you can buy whatever you want, spend whatever you want.
No, but you don't understand. Lena, sorry. I'm sorry to be annoying. Listen.
It's okay.
The best way for her to want a car is to bike to work. If you're driving her to work, is she going to want to get a car?
Right. No, that's correct.
If she's got a chauffeur, why would she want a car? You understand? So you're driving her to work and then saying, well, you really need a car.
Well, she also needs a car because she's doing a program with school where she's going to have to drive herself this coming fall, which she
knows is coming up.
Yeah, she got the car.
So she's almost an adult, so she can figure that out for herself, right? And if she doesn't get the car, then she can't do the program, right?
Right.
What am I missing?
I really want her to do the program.
No, you don't. You want to get her ready for adulthood.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is part of the program.
No.
Too.
Adulthood is not the program. Adulthood is choices and consequences.
Yeah.
Right? If she doesn't save up for the car, then she can't drive to the program. Then she's going to have to bus it or arrange rides with someone else or hitchhike or I don't know what, right? Or you know, if there's a bus, bike, whatever, right? I mean, so she's going to have to, or she doesn't go. That's the lesson, isn't it? Like nothing that's in the program could be more important than that lesson, given that she's almost 18. Is that right?
It's right.
So what am I missing?
I guess just the dilemma of me sitting by and watching her not do these things.
Why is that a dilemma?
Other
than because you're a mom.
Right.
Okay. You know what my next question is, right?
Maybe.
Where's the daddy?
But, right. Well,
oh dear. I think we just said an entire volume with one.
You have to forgive me. I have a cold too. So,
Oh, that was a very specific cold. Let me put you that way. That was a very patriarchal inspired cold.
So, her
That was
father
a cold
and I are,
cold, if you don't mind me saying so. Okay, go on.
her father and I are divorced. We've been divorced for a long time.
How long?
And 2004.
Ew. Cozy 13 years, right? So she was 5?
Yeah.
4. She was 4.
4. Mm-hmm.
And her relationship with her father?
It's been on and off. He's kind of around. He's been around sometimes, and then sometimes he's not. He's been in and out of jail. And
What?
yeah.
All right. Let's go back a little. Let's go on the Wayback Machine here, Elena, if you'll indulge me.
Okay. Sure.
Did you know he had any criminal proclivities when you were dating him?
Yes.
You did. Okay. And what were the criminal activities he was involved in when you were dating him?
Gosh. Well, I was 16 when we started dating, and then I was 18 when I had her, and
Okay, let's just talk about 16. We'll take this one step at a time.
Sure.
So what was he involved? Was he your age?
He's a year older, yeah.
Okay, so he was 17 when you met, and what was he involved in?
He would get into fights with other people.
So he was violent?
Yeah.
Okay. And what else?
And underage drinking.
All right. He was like a big drinker?
Like, yeah, there's always parties on the weekends and, yeah, a lot of drinking, other drug use too.
Like what? Marijuana? What else?
Like marijuana or acid and sometimes cocaine.
All right.
And
how did he pay for all this?
That's a good question.
Did he have a job?
He did, yeah. He had a job. He was, well, the whole thing is like he didn't finish high school. He dropped out his senior year. He started like working with his friends doing construction. So he had some money, and it probably seemed like a lot of money for a 17-year-old. But
so he's a high school dropout, violent, underage drinker, and a druggie.
Mm-hmm.
And how pretty was he?
Not.
What kind of troll were you then? I don't know. What the hell?
I can only say, like I've explained it before, I was in like a very self-destructive time in my life. And I don't know. It's hard for me to think of what I was thinking back then.
What did your family think of him?
I guess my mom didn't think that it was that serious at first.
Oh, God. Okay, so he's a violent, druggy drinker guy, but it's okay because it's not that serious? Come on. She didn't.
I know. She didn't know all that in the beginning.
Well, why didn't you tell her? Well, you weren't close to your mom?
Well, I wasn't going to tell her that we were underage drinking.
So you weren't close to your mom?
If I was underage.
Because you didn't come to her for advice and say, this is what the cool kids want me to do, and this is what this guy's like, and I don't know, I'm attracted to him, what should I do, blah, 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 right?
Right. No, that's accurate.
All right.
We weren't that close.
So how did you end up getting pregnant? No birth control?
Correct.
Why no
I was
birth
on
control?
birth control.
Why no birth control?
Well, I was on it for a while, and then there's a whole story. Okay, I actually ended up moving out of my house when I was 17 and moved in with him, and I finished my senior year of high school.
Did your mother get the idea that it might be a little bit serious at that point?
Yeah, and I think I decided to do that after it was like a week after my 17th birthday, because I heard somewhere that like the police couldn't come bring you home if you're 17. Like you can be a legal runaway or something.
So what was going on in your house, Lena, that you'd rather go with the druggy, drinky, fighty guy? Because you got an ACE, like Adverse Childhood Experience score, of 1, right?
Right.
So I've seen a lot worse.
Right.
What was going on at home that you were like desperate to get out? You turned 17, cops can't get me, I'm out of here.
Right. No, I don't know. I just, like I said, it was a self-destructive time in my life.
That doesn't answer me anything, and I'm not going to accept that as an answer, right?
Right.
So what the hell was going on at home that you were so desperate to get out? Were your parents still together?
No, they divorced when I was very young.
Huh. Good thing. No patterns here.
Right. Oh, there's plenty of patterns, actually.
Yeah, all right. And did your mom have a boyfriend in that you didn't like, or what?
So my parents divorced when I was very young. She got remarried when I was 10. We moved to a different town, a very different town. We moved from the city to the country. And she was married to my stepdad till I was 15. And then she got divorced from my stepdad, but we stayed in the country town and partly finished high school there. But then she got remarried when I was 17 also. So she was getting remarried. Now that I think about it, she was getting remarried, and I was like, fuck it, I'm out. I'm not going to stay here with you and this guy I don't know. And I'm doing my own thing, and you can't tell me what to do, basically.
So 3 marriages?
Yeah.
And what were the men like?
Well, the first stepdad, he was a workaholic. I mean, I'm just going to talk about the basics here, even if it's not accurate or correct, but this is my interpretation. He was a workaholic, and he was very controlling and not pleasant to be around. And so then the third husband, I don't hang out with them that much because I moved out when they got married, so it's not like I ever lived in their house. But he's much different. He's like way more beta and has money too, so that's appealing. She hypergamied for that one.
Would you say that the father of your daughter was a beta or an alpha? Or something else?
Big alpha.
An alpha?
With the fights and stuff, he'd be like...
Are you kidding me? That's what you call an alpha?
I think so. He parade around like... Okay, yeah, I guess he wasn't.
Oh my God. I'm enslaved to drugs and alcohol, but I'm a total alpha. I have no self-restraint and punch the hell out of people, but I'm an alpha because that spells success.
I guess he thought he was an alpha.
Like gorilla alpha.
You know?
That's
I don't know.
I know what you mean, right? He threw poo magically, therefore alpha.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Got it. All right. And why were you off birth control when you were 18?
Oh, because I was gaining weight. And
funny story. You know what else helps you gain weight?
A baby, right? Getting pregnant.
All right. So you went off the pill, right? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, you went off the pill when you were how old? 18, 17?
Not quite 18.
Okay. And why did you not use other forms of birth control? You know, there are 18 different kinds, right?
We did a little bit, but I mean...
No. Don't, please. Please, don't talk to me about a little bit. I only played a little bit of Russian roulette, so I don't know what happened. I don't know why I have this giant hole in my head. Come on. I know,
and I've been thinking about this lately too, and part of it is just being stupid, being naive, being 17 and a half years old, but then also... No.
Lots of 17-year-olds don't get pregnant. In fact, the vast majority of them don't get pregnant. So whose needs were you serving when you didn't use birth control?
He also, let me just say, I think he tried to trap me, first of all. He was happy when I found out I was pregnant. I was not happy. I think he was trying to trap me because I was a good catch for him. And he wanted a baby. He wanted a family. He wanted a baby. He liked drama. And
so what did he put a hole in the condom and tell you it was fine or what?
Well, he told me because he had a hernia a couple times or something. So he's like, oh, the doctor said I probably can't have kids. And I'm not saying that's a valid excuse. But
wait, the doctor said he might not be able to. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh because this is your daughter. But no, seriously, like he said, I have a hernia. I might not be able to have kids. And you're like, yeah, let's spin the dice. Let's roll those babies.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't want to put all the blame on him, obviously.
Hell, I'm trying to put any blame on him.
He wasn't very nice to me either. So.
What, are you saying that you had babies with him because he wasn't nice to you?
I didn't want to have. I don't know. I didn't want to have babies.
No, if you look, come on, Lena, you're a smart woman, and 17 is not an excuse for everything. You can go to war at 17, so don't give me this. I was 17, right? So if you are having unprotected sex of any kind, you are risking pregnancy. You know that, right?
I do know that.
So trying to blame him, I don't quite follow.
All right.
100% agency. You moved out. You say, oh, wow, I'm 17. The cops can't grab. I'm an adult.
Right.
Cops can't take me back home. I'm going to make me some adult decisions. Well, one of those is pregnancy.
Right.
And saying he had a hernia and therefore I went off birth control. I mean, come on. Because if you want, listen, the reason I'm saying all of this is A, I love torturing my listeners. And B, no, I'm kidding. Right. But no, why is that you cannot expect your daughter to take one shred more responsibility at her age than you're willing to take when you were her age.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
So if you're like, well, he said this and I was gaining weight and right? Then what you're doing is saying, oh, if you're 17, you have no agency, you have no responsibility. You got no ethics. And then you want her to have responsibility, right? If you excuse yourself, you excuse her. If you don't accept the moral agency that you had at 17, you cannot give it to her. You have no credibility. Do you understand? I'm not trying to get you to punch your 17-year-old in the nads, so to speak. But what I am trying to say is that if you don't give yourself agency for the choices you made, then you cannot expect your daughter to have agency. I mean, you can, but it won't work. You know that old saying about kids? I can't hear what you're saying over what you're doing. And in this case, she would say, I can't hear what you're saying over what you did at 17 and justify now.
Right.
So what happened after 18 with the guy?
Well, that's interesting because you were just talking to that last caller about predestination. And in my head at the time, because I was raised Christian, my mom's really into church. And
wait, your mom's a Christian?
I was like, yeah.
I guess she's not one of these Christians that doesn't believe in divorce, though.
Right. No,
I guess she's not one of these Christians who doesn't support or doesn't make her daughter not live with a guy who's
Right.
a drug addict and a drinker, or a druggie and a drinker and a fighter and a violent guy.
Right.
So she's not
She met-
so much of a practical Christian as she is a theoretical, I like dressing up on Sundays Christian.
She met the last two husbands at church singles groups.
Sure. Okay. It's kind of like a social club with a occasional halo on the wall. I got it.
She's pretty hardcore now, though.
Yeah, it's called Lucky the Barn Door after the horses left.
Right. She's older now, anyway. But, I thought at the time, I was like, I guess this is what God wants for me. I guess I'll marry him because this is just how my life, this is how God wants my life.
Sorry, who was saying, I guess this is what God wants for me?
Me, when I found out I was pregnant, I was like,
so now it's God's fault.
No, it's God's plan.
No, it's God's
plan.
Yeah, it's not your
exactly.
agency. It's
Right.
God's plan.
Right. At the time, that's what I was thinking. And
so no choice for you, right?
Right. Well, that's just what you were talking about with the last caller.
Right.
And it was relevant in this situation. So as to what I was thinking at the time.
Please don't make me ask you what you thought of the female caller. Don't make me.
Oh, I know.
Don't. Okay, 2 minutes. 1 minute. 30 seconds. What did you think of the female caller?
I thought, when you say, how you doing, or whatever you say, I'm well and I'm doing good, you are doing good because you got her good and she bailed. So
I hope she listens again.
Right.
I hope she listens again. And I can see that there's some sacrifices going on in that marriage, but I'd like to talk to the husband at some point if he's allowed. Anyway. Okay, so God said keep the baby, and you kept the baby, and then what happened?
And then we got married.
How old?
Well, so I was 18 when I had her, 19 when I got married, and things were better, and I just accepted that as this is going to be my life, and I started college, and had another baby at 20.
Why did you start college?
Because I had a career path. That's why.
Why did you have a career path when you just had two babies?
He wanted me to go to college also.
Oh, his fault again.
Well, no, he was very encouraging to me. Like, he was like, women can't work in the trades. Women have to go to college. You got to get some other job. I think he realized that we needed a dual income with the kind of income he was providing.
So he knocks you up twice and then wants you to have a career.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So math is not his big thing, right?
No.
Like the math of what you earn versus how much you pay to take care of the babies, right?
Right.
Now, did you want to go to college?
Yes.
Why?
Because I'm a dental hygienist, actually, and I always wanted to be a dental hygienist, and I got to say, I love all your dental analogies that you give out all the time.
Okay. I take care of my teeth. All right.
Right.
Okay, so the alpha knocks you up twice and then wants you to get a job, because that's all kinds of alpha.
Yeah.
Because, being an alpha is being a provider. All right.
I guess I'm wrong.
Now, but did you go to school? Did you study at home? Did you go to college? I mean, who took care of your babies?
Yeah, so it's a community college, and it wasn't far away. And when we were together, his stepmom would come over and watch the baby or the babies. My mom retired shortly after I had the second baby. She's pretty good at doing the grandma thing, and then his sister lived with us for a little while. So it's not like I ever had strangers watching the kids. It was extended family that would come over.
Strange, but not a stranger.
Right. So that wasn't an issue in that sense. And one of my girlfriends, she was in college at the same time, and we would take classes at opposite schedules so we could swap kids and stuff.
And were you breastfeeding your kids?
I did, yeah.
Okay, all right. So how long did college take? Was it like 2 years?
Well, it took me 7, but yeah, because I had to do it part-time.
7?
But it's an associate's degree, yeah.
Well, no. I mean, I guess congratulations on that. But if you'd gone full-time, how long would it have taken?
Maybe 3 years.
So if you'd waited till your babies were older and gone full-time, same schedule, right?
Sure. Sure, yeah. I mean, there was a waiting list to get into the program. You had to do your prereqs, and then you get on the waiting list. But if I'd done it the smartest way ever, it would have been 3 years.
Right. Okay. All right. And so then what happened? So you were saying that, if I remember rightly, it was 2004 that you divorced?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So we were only married for 3 years, actually.
And what happened to the marriage? Don't tell me God had another plan for you.
Well, I think so. But I just realized that I didn't want to be with him for the rest of my life. And that this is what I said was that, like,
but why?
16,
Why? What happened? What happened?
I was realizing that he was dumb, and it was so hard to argue with him, and he had some problems with drugs and alcohol, which shouldn't be surprising.
Oh, so he was still, as a father of 2, he was still drinking and using drugs?
Yeah.
Was it, I'm just curious about this, and I'm sorry for drilling it in such detail. This is mere rampant personal curiosity, Lena, but did you sort of wake up, like, was it, there's an old thing which I don't think men understand. Like, men think that if they woo a woman, then she'll end up wanting to be with him. And
yeah.
I think the real truth is the woman knows, like, within 30 seconds, right?
Maybe.
Now, another thing that I think happens with women is things are okay, things are okay, things are okay. And then she wakes up one morning and she looks at you and it's like, I think I'm going to kill you in my sleep if I stay here one more day.
Sure.
And once the woman is like, you hold on, you hold on, you hold on. And then, you know, it's like walking across that frozen pond. Little cracking, you can get there. When it goes, it goes.
Yeah.
Was it sort of like that? Like, it wasn't like, oh, I think I can hang on. I think I can. But it was just like you wake up one day and it's just like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a sort of, and then men are like, well, can I fix it? It's like day before, maybe day after.
Right.
Not so much.
Yeah. Right.
All right.
No, that's similar. Mm-hmm. So then we split up. I mean, I don't know how much detail you want me to go into with it, but I got my own place, moved the kids out. They were young, 4 and 2, and we were going to share custody 50-50. Like, because at that time he was driving a truck, so he was gone Monday through Friday, and then he was home on the weekends. And so I would have the kids Monday through, like Monday night through Friday morning, and then he'd have them Friday through Monday. It was basically, and I'd work all weekend. So it was really a nice split of 50-50.
No, it wasn't a nice split.
Well, compared to other things.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay, compared to the ground opening up beneath you and you being sucked into a Dantean inner hell, but
right.
I mean, was he an abusive father? Was he a bad father? Was he a dangerous father? Was he a careless father?
No, not necessarily. I mean, no.
So why leave him? I mean, the kids needed him, right?
I didn't want him.
Yeah, but you have kids. Like, you know, as a parent, it's not about what you want anymore, right? It's not like I wanted to spend 6 years of my life getting all kinds of medieval diseases from play centers.
Right.
Like, because your concern is that your daughter is a little selfish, right? So I'm just trying to sort of figure out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if he wasn't abusive and he wasn't dangerous and he wasn't careless, then...
Well, he wasn't abusive to them, but he was very difficult to be with, and he...
Yeah, but you knew that going in.
Yeah.
He had 2 kids with a guy.
Yeah.
Like, and they need him, right? But then you wanted what you wanted, which was out.
Yeah.
And what would your kids have preferred?
Well, I think that's obvious.
Well, I'd like you to say it.
That we would have been together.
Why would they have preferred that?
Um, I don't know if I can articulate that because I can't say it would have been better, but.
Well, no, it would have been better for them, I assume, if that's what they wanted and he wasn't abusive to them.
Right.
What they would have wanted would be for you guys to have gotten along better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And either you could have gotten along better, but you bailed, or you had children with a man that you couldn't get along with.
Right.
And of course, you did get along with him well enough to have 2 children, right? And to move out from your home. So what changed?
Besides, I just feel like I was very young, and I felt like I was growing and changing and understanding things, that he was just stuck in that same 17-year-old mindset. I couldn't have a conversation with him.
Could you have a conversation with him before the second child, or no?
His kind of conversation, sure.
And what's that?
I don't know. He would say things that just made me question his thinking. Like, he's really dumb. And
well, but he was interesting enough to be with for 5 years.
I guess.
And to have two babies with, right? So he wasn't that. If he was that dumb and boring, you wouldn't have been with him for half a decade, right?
What do you say to young ladies who are in relationships with men who are very controlling?
You haven't mentioned the controlling thing.
So I said he wasn't very nice to me, but
yeah. I'm not accusing you of withholding. I just want to make sure I understand what you mean by controlling and how it showed up.
When we first got together, like I said, it was a very self-destructive time in my life. He was very, he would isolate me from my friends. He isolated me from my mom because he would get mad at me if I wanted to hang out with my friends instead of hanging out with him. And he didn't want to hang out with my friends, so I had to choose between.
I'm trying to get you to, I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but I'm trying to get you to use some self-ownership language. No, that's because you want to transfer this self-ownership to your daughter, right?
Right.
Okay. So you say he isolated me from my friends. And then you say, well, he would get mad at me if I'd want to see my friends. That is not him isolating you from your friends.
Okay.
Isolating you from your friends is kidnapping you and locking you in some kind of Shrek tower.
Right.
Right, beyond the reach of the law in some magical way, right?
Yeah. So
he would get mad when you'd see your friends. You 100% make the choice then to conform to his anger and ditch your friends.
Yes.
And this is what I need you to get, because when you listen back to this, as I hope people always do.
Right. Yeah.
You and self-ownership, you and self-responsibility, at least in this part of the story, not on speaking terms.
Okay.
It's like you divorced self-ownership at some point in your life and ended up with this mess. And they're still using that language.
Sure.
To excuse your own choices. So you say he's controlling. It's like, no. He would get mad when you wouldn't do what he wanted, but you chose to stay.
Yeah.
You chose to conform. You chose to obey. He can't control you unless he's got you locked in a trunk.
Right.
So you made the choice to submit to his preferences.
Yes.
You made the choice to empower his anger. You made the choice to give him 2 children. And then you say he did stuff to you.
Shall I rephrase it then?
No, I'm just going to be alert to it going forward. That's all.
Sure.
To be annoying. See, look, you're in another controlling relationship. I'm now trying to control what you say. Anyway, go on.
So should I continue with him isolating me from my friends and family?
Yes, please do.
Okay. So, and I'll tell you one thing too, is in the beginning, I liked it because I felt like very important.
Sure. Someone wants to control you. They really care.
Well, he was like very concerned because I was talking to one of his friends, and he took me aside and said that he didn't want me talking to that friend because I was going to sleep with his friend, apparently.
Oh,
and
so he was jealous.
Yeah.
Because nothing spells alpha like sexual jealousy.
Right. I guess so.
Oh, man. And yes, you absolutely, definitely, double plus, want to take life advice on how to be successful and productive from violent drinkers and drug users, because they got it all worked out.
Yeah, so I like remember that conversation. I remember feeling like liking it because he cared that much. I mean, it's just stupid teenage stuff that I'm recalling.
Again, you're saying it's somehow the result of you being a teenager. You see?
Well,
responsibility.
Aren't
Lena, you're killing me.
Aren't teenagers dumb? They don't know things yet. They haven't learned.
Don't blame teenagers. Don't blame teenagedom. Your brain had reached full physical maturity by the time you had kids.
So who do I blame? My mom?
Blame and response. Like, blame is the coward's words for responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? How about you just take responsibility? This is what you chose to do. You chose to get together for a half decade with a guy that a blind man could see was not going to be a good father. Right? The signs were there. There was no doubt. Violent, drug abusing, alcohol abusing. Come on. This is not brain surgery. This isn't like, well, he got a railway spike through the head and just mysteriously changed. I mean, this is continual behavior. You wanted the security of the relationship more than you wanted independence and responsibility. And are you telling me that there were no nice guys around who might want to date you? Not one. Plenty of nice guys. Because you know that nice guys are out there with their head in their hands saying, that Lena, she's cute, she's smart, she's funny. Why is she dating this guy?
Yeah.
You know, you basically poking some diamond hard, painful nipples into their sensitive spots. Because it's just like, why? You could have dated nice guys.
Right.
But you didn't.
No.
And you can't put any responsibility on your daughter, who's 17, if you don't take any responsibility for what you did at 17. Because she can just say, hey, Mom, you always told me teenagers are dumb, so don't expect me to be smart. Teenagers don't know what they're doing. Don't expect them to be smart. Well, he told me that he wanted me to do stuff, and you always said, well, men are controlling, so I'm just going to let him control me because that's what you said. Men are controlling. You have no choice.
Yeah.
This is how the virus of irresponsibility spreads. You give yourself excuses. You give your children permission. You could have chosen better. Listen, and look, you understand, I made bad decisions when I was a teenager. I made bad decisions when I was in my 20s. But I don't blame it on my age. I have lots of excuses to blame it on my family. I have lots of excuses to blame it on just about anything that I could think of. My adverse childhood experience score is off the roof.
Yeah.
But I don't. Because I want to model responsibility for everyone. I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm sure there's somebody out there who may find I don't think I've ever said I was not responsible for the choices I made when I was younger because my childhood was so terrible. I know the deck that was stacked against me making good decisions, but I had philosophy from the age of 16 onwards. I had the tools to make better decisions. You knew this guy was a bad guy to have a family with, right?
Yeah.
You knew this deep down. And for 5 years, you ignored that basic fact. And you are responsible for ignoring that basic fact. And you are responsible, Lena, for your daughters growing up without a father. It was not his fault. It was not the fault that you were a teenager. It was no one's fault, no one's responsibility. If you want to bring blame into it, I think that's sort of pointless. Acceptance is not blame. Accepting responsibility doesn't mean that you have to hate yourself. Because if you avoid responsibility, it is harming your daughter. Because you're expecting from her something you do not expect from yourself, even in hindsight. Right? Because you're in your 30s now, you're still looking back at your 17-year-old self with all of the knowledge you've had. In the intervening 18 years, or 20 years, I know my math's off, but let's just keep going with it. Right? So you're looking back with additional decades of knowledge and wisdom and experience, and you're still taking no responsibility for what you did at 17. And you're expecting your daughter to do it when she's 17, when you can't even do it with 2 decades of hindsight? Never ask more of your children than you have asked of yourself. Never, ever try to give more responsibility to your children than you take for yourself. Even in hindsight, especially in hindsight. The problem is not with her. And that's great news.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if the problem was with her, you'd be largely helpless.
Yeah.
But if the problem was with you, you get to feel bad and you get to feel great. You get to feel guilt and you get to feel empowered, because those two things are the same thing. Everybody wants to be empowered. Nobody wants to feel bad.
Right.
Me too. I understand. I'm right down there with you. I'm not lobbing this down from some ivory tower of perfect behavior. I'm right down in there with you. This is not coming from any superiority.
Right.
I made ridiculously bad decisions in relationships, in particular, when I knew better, according to the values that I claimed to hold. I just didn't want the consequences of integrity. And that was terrible. And the only way it got better was for me taking responsibility and taking the guilt and the shame of having made bad decisions for a long time. It's like you're lost in a wood and you need a sword with a bright light to get out, but the handle burns when you pick it up. And people don't, oh, that hurts. Damn, that's hot. And they throw it aside and they wander in the woods. You got to go back to the sword. You pick up the sword. You use it to cut your way out of the murk. You use its light and you take the burn. And your language, Lena, is of a done unto person. Things have been done unto you. It's the responsibility of your ex-husband, of your youth, of your environment, of your circumstances. But it was you. Because this was not subtle dysfunction that you were facing. Now, don't get me wrong. I could talk about your mom and her 3 marriages. I could talk about all of that kind of stuff, for sure. But here's the problem. If you talk about your mom being the cause of your problems, what is your daughter going to internalize?
I'm the cause of her problems.
It's you, baby. Yeah. It's you. And you're going to just give her another excuse. It has to stop with you. The buck has to stop with you. Full 150% responsibility. It hurts. It's horrible. It's nasty. And I know that for women, shame and guilt and so on can feel overwhelming, right? Like when you look back and you say, okay, what if it was all of my responsibility, all of my doing? Yeah. It's like this big, giant Eiffel Tower-sized Jenga blocks come raining down on your head, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's hard. And that's why it's hard to change these cycles in a family, right?
Yeah.
You can try and control others, or you can accept responsibility for yourself. Either one will get the job done. It's just that one will stick. Only one will stick.
Okay.
And this is a great conversation to have with your daughter. You can have her listen to this if you want, or you can just talk about it. And you can ask her, do you think mommy has ever described her past without taking responsibility? Do you think mommy has ever had a sort of tiny little habit of blaming others for her own choices?
Sure.
Ever happen? What a great conversation to have. What is the responsibility of a 17-year-old? It's a great question. I don't know the answer. It changes in various circumstances with various people. I don't know what the answer is. But if she's responsible, then so are you.
Yeah.
And you cannot ask your children to carry what you won't pick up. Well, you can, but it won't work.
Yeah.
Does that help?
I think so.
You all right?
I think.
I don't know if this is like you're emotional or you've got a cold.
Both.
Or both. All right. Is there anything you wanted to talk about what you're feeling?
Well, it's just been a hard week for me. And I just don't know where to go from here, I guess.
You
maybe
so know where to go from here or don't know?
I mean, I don't know where to go from here. Like, I guess, having that conversation with her, maybe having her listen to this conversation, she'd probably enjoy it, because it's kind of like I'm getting scolded a little bit, but it's okay. I mean, that's I guess where I'll go from here.
Don't try and have the show do the work, because then you're putting responsibility on me or the show rather than this conversation, right?
No, that gives me a good perspective on how I've been phrasing things or thinking of things in that way.
And there is an immediate reduction of discomfort to absolve oneself of responsibility. But it comes at the cost of the future, and it comes at the cost of your kids. To some degree. I mean, I'm not a monster. You've not raised terrible kids or anything like that, but...
I mean, what it comes down to is me, like, let me just check with you and verbalize if this is what it comes down to, is instead of saying, making excuses for what other people have done, is it really just me saying I made a bad choice? I made a bad choice. It was my choice to do this. It was a bad choice. I mean,
no, because you have to address her
Like
experience of
excuse.
17 years of you not taking as much responsibility as you should. Don't change course with the kids without saying explicitly that you're changing course. And listening to them talk about what they've imbibed from your previous incarnation, right?
Can you say that again? Or
Yeah, that's not a good way to put it. So if you're now going to change your language from I was helpless and done unto to I'm now owning and accepting responsibility, that's great, but you have to take responsibility for the fact that you didn't take responsibility with regards to your life, with regards to your daughter for 17 years.
Okay.
So that can't just vanish. Now I'm taking responsibility, but you have to take responsibility for the fact that you didn't. I'm generalizing, but you know what I mean. Not 100%, but you know. That you didn't take responsibility with regards to your daughter for like 17 years. You have to take responsibility for that and its effects on your daughter. You know, like the analogy would be if you'd been an alcoholic, which I'm not saying is equivalent, right? But if you'd been an alcoholic, I'm not drinking anymore. Topic's closed.
Right.
No. Topic has just begun to open.
Okay. Well, that can be a start, and I can see how it goes. You know.
I can see how it goes. Oh boy, this demon is tough to dig out, Lena. He really, really is. I can see how it goes.
Right.
Did you get passive? Did you go rubber bones on me again there, Lena?
Well, so sometimes I don't know how things are gonna go. I have an idea of how things are gonna go,
but that's passive again. This situation is now going to happen unto me, and I'm going to see how it goes. No. You are bringing this situation to your daughter. You're in control of what you say. You have influence on how she reacts. You're making this happen. It's not happening to you.
I have some influence on how she reacts, but...
Sure. But you certainly have complete control over what you say and do.
Yes.
And you have complete control over how you react to what she does. And she will be provocative, of course. It's tough to hear when you're 17 and have been programmed with helplessness. It's tough to hear that was a mistake. Oops! Sorry, I may have given you 17 years of no human agency while demanding that you be responsible, but it's turning around right now. That's hard. But the only thing that's harder is not doing that. Because if she doesn't have agency, just as you didn't have agency, some strong-willed jerk's going to come and order her around, right? Yeah. As happened with you.
Right.
And then you'll be a very young grandmother.
Right.
And then she will end up raising her kids without a father.
Or I will.
Oh, you'll end up raising them without a father. Because you complain about the controlling boyfriend that you chose, both to date and to stay with, right?
And to have kids with.
And to have kids with. Your daughter did not even choose you as a mother.
Right.
Right? She had no choice in the matter. You complaining and having no agency with regards to a boyfriend you completely invited into your life and chose to stay with every minute of every day for half a decade and chose to have 2 children with.
Yeah.
How many more complaints is she going to have about you? She didn't even choose you.
Right.
And owning up to one's foibles as a parent is very, very important. We need to have the capacity to have our children criticize us. Otherwise, they won't have agency. If they can't criticize us, they're just going to be open to be controlled by anyone. And as parents, we all do things. You know, I'm grilling you. Someday you may grill me. And my weakness as a parent will come up.
So that'd be my first step then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you could be honest about the seductiveness of passivity.
Sure.
Passivity is the great drug that heals all and destroys all. I was done unto. I am a victim.
Yeah.
I was controlled. I was bullied. Or sometimes people, he was just sexy and I had no choice. Like whatever, right? Not in this case, apparently.
Right.
But passivity, doing too much is the great curse of men, and doing too little or claiming too little is the great curse of women in general. Men think they can control too much. Women think they can control too little. And given that listen, for those who don't understand what Lena is doing, you need to understand that what Lena is doing is amazing. She is calling in to ask how to help her daughter. Yeah. Now, if you're not a parent, you don't know how tough that is. If you are a parent, you know how tough that is. And what she's doing is very brave, and what she's doing is very thoughtful, and what she's doing is very loving. She made a positive choice to make a phone call to ask for help. Do you know how many people don't do that in life? Do you know how many people don't ask for help? Who just kind of soldier on, making the same mistakes day after day, no review, no feedback, no consultation, no advice? I mean, I invite the listeners, think of people in your own life. Think of people in your own life. How many of them, they're making mistakes. You know that they could do better, but they never inquire or ask for help. And if you bring up that they could do better, what do? They may lash out. They may snap back at you. They may, for instance, accuse you of accusing them. It may even have happened in this very college show. Not from you. You understand? Right. So the fact that she's calling in, this is like a very positive, and this is why I know you're ready for responsibility, because this was a very responsible thing to do, in my opinion. You made a positive action to ask for help. Beautiful. And the people who criticize people who ask for help, you think you're doing something harmful to those people? It's not true at all. All you're doing is you're making sure that you can never ask for help. Lena's calling up and being vulnerable and talking to people, to me, and knowing that people will. This is a vulnerable thing to do. It's a brave thing to do. It's a courageous thing to do. And it's like, well, all you're doing is meaning that you're never going to do it, and now you're going to be flying blind. Everyone thinks they're throwing cages on other people. Everyone thinks, I got this, I'm going to torture this person with negative heart, right? Like the Price of Sex video that went out recently. People criticizing the callers. You think it's a torture chamber, anybody can leave at any time except you. Except whoever is doing that to other people. They can just ignore you, close down their browser and go on, but you're stuck there. I'm saying this not to you, of course, Lena, but to the listeners. Yeah, it's easy to judge. He said, Steph, you should have been harder on this person. You should. Yeah, it's easy to do that. Easy to do that. But the people who call in, whether to this show or other people, private conversations, doesn't matter, where they think there's some wisdom and some good advice to be received. It's a very brave thing to do, a very difficult thing to do. And of course, if you've listened to the show for any length of time, you know that there are a hell of a lot of people who call in for help and don't take it.
Yeah.
Even when they can't prove me wrong. So I just wanted to express my intense admiration for that supreme act of self-ownership and responsibility of just even making the call. I mean, it's a bit nerve-wracking, right?
It is.
Right. Especially when I'm so vicious.
Right.
Will you let us know how it goes?
Yeah, let me see how things go, and if I have some more to bounce back at you, maybe I'll write again.
Please do, and I wish you the very best, and I wanted to, again, just express my admiration for the courage of what you're doing.
Sure.
It's fantastic. All right.
Thanks.
Last caller, let's move it. I like to move it.